It's hard to believe the trial of the century is over.
We, the jury, in the above...
Even though O.J. Simpson was found not guilty of murder by a jury of his peers, our nation is still divided on his actual innocence. Through the power of the media, quite a few people found their 15 minutes of fame because of the O.J. Simpson trial. Kato Kalin made us laugh, and Mark Furman made us wince in disgust. A whole cottage industry was created from this case. Books, videos, trading cards, and even a watch featuring the famous Bronco ride. Somehow, everyone became an expert on O.J. Simpson. Today, we're going to be talking to some unlikely people who became famous because of their O.J. connection. After more than 15 months of O.J. mania, it's incredible how many people have gained notoriety. My first guest was on the cover of the Globe for spending, I guess you could call it a romantic evening with O.J. Please welcome Marie West. Now, as we said, O.J. has opened many a door for people. Well, my next guest opened many doors for O.J. Over a 2-year period, he was O.J.'s limo driver. Please welcome Mark Burris. Now, I'd like you to meet a guy who has been on Dateline NBC, The Today Show, Inside Edition, just for looking like, well, you'll know who. Please welcome Randall Tamayo. Randall, come on out. Your Honor.
Great.
It's good to see you. When was the first time somebody told you, hey, you look just like Judge Ito?
You know, actually, back in '92, my mother told me that.
Your mother was the first to notice?
Right. Yeah, he did the Charles Keating Lincoln Savings case. Right. And my mother saw his picture. She cut it out. She sent it to me. She says, this guy looks just like you.
Wow. Well, we will get back to you in just a minute. But, Marie, in many ways, you have been closer to O.J. than any of us.
In one particular way.
Yes. Well, in one particular way. When did you first meet O.J.?
Late in June of 1988, I was working at a lounge in Laguna Beach, on the beach in Laguna Beach, California, called Las Brisas. It's a gorgeous place. And he came in there quite frequently, and he was a great tipper, suave gentleman, wonderful guy, and he sat right in my station and kind of looked over at me and says, hey, how about we get you an apartment up in West L.A., you know, as to have me as, what would you call, a concubine or something like that. And I was like, I don't think so. I just graduated from UCLA. I don't need that kind of help.
All right, but now he did have another offer in mind for you, didn't he?
Well, no, that didn't happen until he kept coming in repeatedly, time after time after time. Would you like to go out? I kept saying no, and then one day he said, would you like to win a bikini contest or enter? And I said, I don't think I can, because I'm not quite as ample as those girls who win those contests. I mean, there's a lot of very, you know what I'm talking about. So he said, no problem. I think I can get you in this contest, and we'll get you to win. Anyway, at some point, one night, it was a Saturday night in late July, a white limousine, Lincoln limousine, pulled out in front of Las Brisas, and I was in my little cute short outfit, and I just got off work. And I went out, and the back window of the limousine rolled down, and naive me was wondering, maybe they need direction, but who would need directions in the back of the limousine? You know, so I go up, and I roll down the window, and it's O.J. himself.
Okay.
And he says...
Now, didn't he actually stop by a store first?
Yes, first because he was going, why don't we get some champagne? And I don't drink that much. And I said, well, why don't we get, like, maybe some strawberries and whipped cream and Drambuie or something like that, and anything else we might need.
And what else did you need? Give me the entire shopping list.
Well, you know...
Champagne, strawberries, condoms.
Yes.
How long were you with O.J.?
About 3 hours that night.
3 hours? And how can I put this? How big was his limousine?
It was a very good ride, let me tell you.
Good to know, all right. You know what? Now, a lot about O.J.'s character is coming out and stuff. How did he treat you? How did O.J. treat you?
He is one of the smoothest, suavest. He has the most gentlemanly attitude you could imagine. And I did not know at the time that he was married. I had no idea there was Nicole. No, I didn't know.
That's what they all said.
I don't keep track.
Have you seen O.J. since?
No, I haven't. Well, he came back into the club several times, but I had not gone out with him after that one night because I still felt, you know, hey, I ended up going to the bikini contest and winning the contest.
And he was the judge.
He was one of several judges.
And you won.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. So far, this is good to go. If you saw him again, what would you say to him?
You know, that was one of the nicest experiences I ever had. I'm glad things... Yeah, that's a good idea. No, I'm just kidding. I'm glad things worked out for him recently, you know, and thanks for a wonderful night again. Mark, you were the driver that night. Would you corroborate this story?
Well, everything went pretty well how she said it. We stopped at a Ralph's store. I went in and got strawberries, whipped cream, some daiquiri mix. I already had alcohol in the car for him, and we cruised down to Del Mar, which is down the coast, and then we cruised back, and it was about, I'd say it was pretty close to 3.5, 4-hour trip.
Now, were OJ, this is kind of important on our timeline, were OJ and Nicole still together at this time?
Yes, they were.
Ooh.
Well, I didn't know.
You didn't know?
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Wait, I'm sorry, the judge is making a ruling.
She didn't know. She didn't know.
She didn't know. Mark, how long were you with O.J. Simpson and the capacity of driver?
Approximately 1.5 years.
And how did he treat you? Was he a good boss, a bad boss?
Super guy.
All right.
Super. Couldn't have met a nicer guy in my life.
What happened the very first time you went to pick O.J. up?
The very first time, it's as of rule, I stay in my car. I go to the front door, introduce myself, and then I would tell him that I'll be waiting for him. Car's outside and I'm waiting for him. And he said, no, you aren't going to stand out at your car. You're going to come in and sit down with us. We're getting ready, and then we'll go somewhere. So I went inside, and we sat down for probably at least the first 15 minutes to talk sports. And at that time, Nicole got in his case because they were getting ready to go pick up the Browns.
We're hearing a lot about that right now, the relationship between O.J. and Nicole. What you witnessed over the 2-year period, how was that relationship?
He treated Nicole with kid gloves. Gave her a lot of...
I believe you actually told our producers that Nicole ran the roost, that she was in charge.
She did. She reminds me of my wife, where she pretty well takes control, and you keep yourself in line, or she's going to tell you about it. He would call her, yes, honey, no, honey, yes, sweetheart. Very, very nice to everybody who was around.
So if somebody called you as a character witness for O.J. Simpson and said, what kind of guy is he? In 2 words, what would you say?
Super guy.
Super guy.
Super guy. I mean,
We'll be back with a ruling from Judge Randall in just a minute. When we come back, we'll also meet a man who claims he saw O.J. and Cato on the night of the murder. Stay with us. Before I introduce my next 2 guests, I'd like to talk to Judge Randall, if you don't mind. Has it been a curse or a blessing looking just like Ito?
Actually, it's a blessing because I get to travel all over the country. I meet a lot of nice people, and I get paid for it.
Do you get paid well?
Oh, yeah.
What do you get paid for an appearance?
Oh, it all depends. Say a interview on the telephone will pay $400.
Now, what good is a telephone interview with a lookalike?
You know what?
No, I swear to God, you guys, he looks just like him.
Normally at the magazine, it'd be Globe Magazine, National Examiner, something like that.
Store openings, that kind of thing, TV shows?
Store openings, right, open house.
Have you ever met Judge Lancito?
No, haven't met the judge yet.
No correspondence of any kind?
He did send his security people over to see me, and yeah, they wanted to know what I was up to.
And what'd you tell them?
I told them that I was just doing celebrity look-alike stuff, you know, advertising, promotions, you know, things like that.
And they said, oh, they were okay with that?
They said, fine, have a good time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is your face. He doesn't have any rights when it comes to your face.
That's right. This is my face.
Now, have you always had the beard, or did you grow the beard?
No, always had the beard.
So you feel you have every right to do appearances, anything you want to do?
People think I'm the judge wherever I go, so I might have to get paid for it.
Now, your parents, or at least your... Good for you. Your mother has met Judge Ito, hasn't she?
I've met his parents.
Oh, you've met Ito's parents.
Right. I have an appearance on Kirk, the show Kirk, and they came down to see me.
And what did they say?
They said, oh. I'm 2 inches taller than the real judge.
Which is short for, oh, so you're the guy.
You're the guy, yeah.
All right, let me introduce my next two guests. What did O.J. really do on the night of the double murders? Well, my next guest has made a name for himself by claiming he sold drugs to O.J. Simpson and Kato Kaelin that fateful night. He's joined by another man who once worked for O.J., and he says he saw O.J. do drugs. Please welcome Ron X and Al Bowman. Wow, we don't even seem to need the judge. The verdict on you two seems to be in. Ron, now I have heard your story many times. I've read it, I've seen you on TV, and I've talked to you before. Yeah. What do you claim that O.J. did the night of the murder?
All right, let me fully explain this, because a lot of times people don't understand. Kato Kaelin was the drug connection between me and O.J. Simpson. I sold, through my runner, Kato Kaelin crystal methamphetamine the night of the murder about 8:30 p.m. at the Burger King that everybody's heard about. He then gave it to O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson never bought the drugs directly from me and my runner. So if you want to blame somebody, don't blame me, blame Kato Kaelin.
Well, I mean...
Kato is the one. I dealt...
Let me explain,
Dan. I dealt to Kato Kaelin for over 2 years before O.J. Simpson was ever in the picture. We noticed that in February '94, O.J. and Kato started becoming the Burger King together. So it was obvious O.J. was Kato's sugar daddy in that regard.
All right, I just before we move on, and there's a lot of other things to talk about, I just want to take exception with don't blame the drug dealer. I think you're wrong.
Well, I could say, but what I'm saying is that... I understand your point. I do feel bad that I sold them drugs, but again, I did not hook O.J. Simpson onto drugs. Kato Kaelin did.
You know what? Let's not confuse me. You're also, but you are claiming that O.J. was right there. You just did the transaction took place with Kato, but O.J. was in the car with you?
He was in the car, the Bentley, with Kato and my runner. My runner handed them the drugs, handed it to Kato. Kato then gave the drugs to O.J. O.J. never took the drugs directly from me and my runner.
Did you ever go to the police?
I went to the police. I told them my story. I turned in the $100 bill that O.J. and Kato had used to buy the drugs. Kato had snorted through that $100 bill. My runner saw that. He never saw O.J. take the drugs, though, because he was ordered out of the Bentley into the Burger King to get the food. That's why nobody saw them inside the Burger King that night, because my runner was getting them the food.
Okay. Now, so O.J. did not do drugs in front of you?
Not in front of us. No,
okay.
He's too smart for that.
Why were you never called to the stand then?
Well, that's, I think, a big question for Judge Ito here. But the thing is, I feel I should have been called to the stand because I had very relevant evidence. Johnny Cochran said during the trial, you want me to believe that my client went to McDonald's and had a burger and decided to kill 2 people? No, Johnny Cochran. Your client went to Burger King, got speed, crystal meth through Kato from me, and then decided to kill 2 people. Crystal meth is the most dangerous drug in this country. The trial's over. O.J.'s been found not guilty. We can't change that. But crystal meth is still a scourge in this country, and that's why I've come forward to warn people about this drug. This drug is very dangerous. I have stopped selling it.
Let me ask you something.
I have stopped selling the drug. I came forward, gave my information to the DA, and now I'm trying to turn over a new leaf.
What do you do for a living now?
Oh, hang on. You need the mic to ask questions. Yeah. But before we do this, you say you took 2 lie detectors and passed.
Passed both lie detectors. So did my runner. Both passed them. One with the most highly advanced lie detector in the world, created by Johns Hopkins University.
Yeah, but you were on the show here before, and we had a private detective in the audience, and that did not go. Can we look at that tape, and then I'd like you to comment on it? Can we take a look at that tape? Mr. Rizzo, you have given lie detector tests and voice stress tests and the like for years, have you not?
About 25.
All right, could you please tell us, Mr. X claims to have passed 3 lie detector tests. Can you tell us the results of any tests you have given him?
Well, the one I gave him back in February that he knows nothing of, and the one last night, he absolutely is lying. He's absolutely telling the truth. How about everything?
Let me explain this. This was a dirty trick by the show Hard Copy. This guy, when he gave me the voice stress analysis, said he knew nothing about the story. It turned out he knew Diane Diamond, who hates my guts because the story appeared on Inside Edition before it ever appeared on Hard Copy. That was set up to make me look bad. We asked for a copy of the tape so we could give it to another voice stress analysis person. He refused to give a copy. That guy's a liar.
Okay.
I passed 2 real lie detectors.
I want you to know, I do not mean this to be mean in any way. I appreciate we asked you to come to the show, and you did. But in all actuality, Ron, you're a drug dealer in a mask. They don't need help to make you look bad.
Yeah, well...
Jump over to... Well, you guys are together.
I was going to say one more thing. When I was on Inside Edition, I'll say it again. I've taken 2 lie detectors and passed both, real lie detectors. So is my runner.
Hang on.
I challenge O.J. and Cato to take even one about the drug issue. Have you heard a peep out of them? No.
All right, now you challenge Cato to take that lie detector test. What do you think of Cato?
I think Cato is a lobstering scum, and let me explain that. We had a nickname for him, the Lobster. When he would be the middleman in these drug transactions, we had quite a few complaints from people that they weren't getting the full amount of the drug. We found out that Cato was pinching the bag. But he wasn't just pinching that bag, he was lobstering the bag. All right. That's why we call him the lobster.
We also have with us Al Bowman, and we will go to Al, an ex-limousine driver for OJ as well when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And I'd like you to meet someone else. This is Al Bowman. How are you, Al? Good. You were also a limousine driver for O.J. Simpson.
10 years.
For 10 years?
Not for O.J. for 10 years, but I was a career driver in L.A. for 10 years.
All right, now you had the occasion to drive O.J. and Nicole several times?
Just O.J. Picked him up at a golf tournament, took him to USC alumni dinner in 1992.
And how was he to you?
He's an ideal client. Very, very good man. I worked for a lot of professional athletes during the 80s and the early part of the 90s. Famous baseball players. I had an account with the Raiders. And socially speaking, most of these athletes like to do cocaine. This does not make O.J. a murderer. I just witnessed him doing some cocaine.
You did indeed see O.J. Simpson snort cocaine?
Well, I mean, yeah, he was chopping lines in the back. Generally, the practice of professional athletes, they like to ride by themselves a lot. They're around people all the time. They enjoy their time alone in the limo. In fact, I mean, Mark was on CNN, and he was the first limo driver besides myself who had the fortitude to come out and talk about O.J. doing coke. I mean, admit it, Mark, the guy did a lot of blow in your limo. You guys used to snort the carpet when you were done driving that guy, didn't you? He spilled a lot of cocaine.
Okay, now, you know what?
It's true.
Jim Brown came out with this up because I don't know that this has any point here, and I am ashamed to have to say I've done my share of cocaine. I never hurt anyone. You know, I mean,
I know. I'm not saying the guy's a murderer because of it. What I saw after the whole thing broke was I thought if this guy's guilty, he was probably whacked out of his mind because Mark will verify once again, didn't the guy do a lot of blow? I mean, he did. He did a lot of coke. So I think
we all have.
You know, the stuff can engage anger in people. If you're pissed off and you do a bunch of cocaine, you can get 10 times more pissed off.
Well, it's just the reason I am pointing this out is because you actually work now with Ron X, do you not?
Well, what happened was after this thing came out, I heard Jim Brown on TV saying, hey, it's no big secret. O.J. had a cocaine problem. And then I looked into his past with the Buffalo Bills, found out he took a lot of greenies as a player, which is methamphetamine. And it's a common thing with professional athletes. They take speed. They do a variety of drugs. And in order to enrage someone enough to commit that kind of a crime, they would have to do a massive amount of drugs. If he was guilty, I thought to myself, then drugs probably played a part. So I became
Let's find out about that. What do you think? Do you think did you form an opinion?
I really couldn't say. I mean, it's just it's such a strange case. But I'll tell you this. When I talked to Mr. X about it, when I found him, now I had seen him off and on for many years when I was a limo driver, and I always thought he was a homeless man.
Yeah, I posed as a homeless man in front of the Burger King. That's what my
spare changing people. He was spare changing people, but he was actually dealing dope. And so, you know, I mean, I put some things together, and I asked him some questions about this, and he said, I mean, everything he told me was true. Like when the Oklahoma bombing happened, for example, he said that guy, Tim McVeigh, was known as Goon on the streets, and he was involved in meth labs. And I didn't really believe it, and then the LA Times comes out on the cover, McVeigh linked to drug deals, crystal methamphetamine. It was true. And he told me it was getting more and more prevalent. And again, here's another thing that bears it out. Los Angeles Times the other day, speed being manufactured in Guatemala, imported to the States.
Let me read this, what it says about speed, just very quickly here. Unlike heroin or cocaine, speed is made from common, usually innocuous materials. And as the name implies, speed is a stimulant. Users stay alert to the point of hyperactivity for as long as 14 hours, often turning violent or paranoid.
All right, and that's your theory, that that he did the methamphetamines and turned violent.
I'm not the only one who researched it. I mean, you got Vanity Fair, you got Vanity Fair,
two other guests.
New York.
Let me just introduce two other guests, and then we're going to open the floor to some questions. We have, is it Amy and Dawn, or Dawn and Amy?
I'm Dawn.
Would you mind standing up, please?
Certainly.
Hi, Dawn. Hi, Amy. How are you? Dawn, you went to high school with Cato?
Right, for a semester.
And because of that connection, if you will, you're now being paid to research Cato Kalin?
Yes, I am, through the web agency and Ann Bollinger of the New York Post.
And in what regard, what do they want you to find out?
In high school, there was a drug bust that he was involved in. And it was just a small local paper, so it was really, really big news in the small town. So I'm researching that right now, and I have to go back, like, what, 1976, 77, and I have to wait 10 days in order to get it.
Okay, and now how do you know Cato Kalin?
I went out with Cato shortly.
Shortly what?
Is
Is that like a description?
No, I saw him out.
I mean, shortly after high school, shortly after...
Well, he was trying to get a hold of me for a long time, and he was finally in town for an interview, and I ran into him out on Water Street, and we hung out all night, and then we went to Ma Fisher's after bar, and then he wanted to have a menage a trois with my friend, but I disagreed. I sent him on his way.
You sent
I sent him on his way.
Did he want to do anything like that with you back in high school?
No, I was much younger.
All right, now, what do you think of Cato Kalin from what you know of him?
He's a real big party guy, because also in the Journal, the Milwaukee Journal, he was filming a movie called Dirty Cato. It's like a home movie type thing, and he's having this high-speed chase down the freeway, and the cops really thought it was real. So when Cato got out of the car, he pulled out his toy gun, and the cop pulled out his gun, and there's almost like a shooting going on.
So Cato's never been incredibly bright.
A party guy.
Even the conversations that they had at the dinner table, his only comments would mainly be about food play and throwing things around. He mainly was just a little entertainer for everybody.
All right, let's open up to some questions. Everybody has questions. Yes, ma'am, right here. Stand up for me.
I have a comment from all of you. You are garbage. I mean, why would you even waste your time? Ooh, I sold drugs to OJ.
Well, it's not just OJ I'm talking about. I'm talking about the dangers of crystal meth.
What does that
OJ
have
is
to
just
do
a
with
symptom of the
anything? What does
problem.
that have to do with anything?
These two girls prove what I said about Cato. Cato comes on TV saying, I've never taken a drug in my life.
Okay, so
there's only two
what is
people
your
in this
point?
country who
What
can
is
say
your
that.
point?
Cato and Bill
I could
Clinton,
lie
right?
and say, hey, I sold some drugs to OJ, or me and OJ kicked to the McDonald's one time, and I could make some money too.
That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing it to wake people up.
Yeah, I'd like to say to the guy who got the mask on that, you know, anybody can say they sold drugs to OJ, but the reason why you wasn't on court because there was no drugs nowhere in his blood system or anything else. You was useless.
Let me explain that.
You was useless.
Okay, good question. Good question. Let me explain it, though. They took a blood sample of him, but remember, the blood was being walked around. They didn't test it right away. If they had taken a urine sample, they would have found drugs. The other thing is his hair. They can test the hair for drugs. OJ, from the time he was at the funeral to the time you first see him in his arraignment, when he first said not guilty, his hair is so short. We checked with a company called Psychomedics that does hair testing. They said if his hair was cut to the bone as it was, it would have destroyed all evidence of drug use. His hair was too short to test for drugs.
You know, there's some of this stuff that's interesting. I would personally like to see, do you have the results of the lie detector test you took?
They will have the copy. It's being sent to the Danny Show. And again, I passed two, and so did my runner. And the thing is, we challenged Cato and OJ to take one. They didn't take one, and that's why the information...
Yeah, these are the only guys in the whole OJ case that took polygraphs.
And even another potential witness that took a polygraph. They should start making people take polygraphs before they get on the witness stand. Remember that lady? Oh, I wore 2 watches. Give me a break.
All right, we'll be back in just 1 minute. Did you buy into that blood DNA evidence? Well, we've got somebody here who might change your mind. When we come back, we got the experts. Stay with us. expert. Everybody was, you know, hearing the DNA evidence, the DNA evidence. What did you think about the prosecution's DNA evidence?
I congratulate the jury for their decision. I wouldn't have taken that long to come to the same decision they did, and that was based on my evaluation of the DNA evidence presented by the prosecution.
Okay, what was your evaluation? What did you think of the work of the LAPD's experts?
The work of the LA Crime Lab, I think, is a crime, basically. If my graduate students in the Department of Genetics did work like that, we'd throw them out.
What you're saying is if your students presented those kind of results with that kind of work, you'd fail them?
Absolutely.
Wow. All right, now that we all know all about DNA, there's one question that begs to be asked. What the heck is it? What is DNA?
DNA is the basic material of that determines your genetics. It determines your eye color, your hair color, how you look, in many ways, how you act. It is what passes on the heredity from one generation to another.
What do you think about the evidence being planted, then? Do you have any theories there?
At least some of the evidence, I think, was planted. Some of the rest of it probably was contaminated because of the incompetent handling in the crime lab in Los Angeles.
Wow, so you really think that somebody went out of their way to frame O.J. Simpson?
It certainly looks like it.
Interesting. Don, let's jump over to you. Who hired you to investigate the O.J. Simpson case? Who was your boss?
The media.
Such as?
I work for Los Angeles Times, for one. I like to say something, though. Voice stress analyzing. I would trust a witch doctor with bones before I would have anything to do with that, one way or the other. It's a joke. You can make it come out any way that you want to.
Yeah, because
me.
I took 2 real lie detectors where they strap you in. Those are the ones I passed.
The voice stress analyzing is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the polygraph, but that's a joke.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. When you were digging into this case, did you find out things that maybe we don't know about?
Well, you know, early on, I used to know Jay. I didn't run around with him, but he used to hang out at the Luau restaurant in Beverly Hills, and our office was right across the street. And I used to run into him all the time. I mean, he was certainly my hero. I mean, he was a great guy, nice person, had time for everybody. You could put your kid on his lap, he'd sign your autograph picture. And I mean, I had two good friends of mine that are very close to him. And he was always just beyond, I mean, I never thought of O.J. as black or white or anything. He was O.J., that's all. He was beyond any of that sort of thing. And, but I'll tell you something that you probably don't know. I was sent over to Nicole's the day of the slow-speed chase. I mean, he was just missing at that time. And we'd had word that he might be going there to commit suicide.
Right.
So I rolled over there in my surveillance van and trying to pick up anything I could electronically and to police reports or whatever. And then I had left because they still hadn't found him. Then when they got him in the slow-speed chase, I got another call, and they said, would you go over to his house in Rockingham? We think he's going to wind up there. I'm watching television just like us, you know. And I says, well, I think that's where he's going to wind up, too, if he makes it. And I'll tell you that you had sharpshooters all around there. When Jason Simpson ran out there, my opinion, O.J. was about that far from getting shot, and we wouldn't be talking about this right now because they had him in the crosshairs. He had a gun. There was 2 policemen standing out there, and when Jason runs out there and pulls that foolhardy thing, anything could have happened then. I mean, believe me, he come that far from getting blown away.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is for the doctor over there. I would like to know how much of the DNA needs to be tested, how much of a sample does it take, and I would also like to talk about this scary drug dealer right here. If you're so interested in the truth, who are your runners and who gives you the drugs and everything? Who all are involved if you want to get something against O.J. Simpson? What's up here?
One at a time. Let's go to the doctor. What do you need to test DNA?
Okay, you need an extremely small amount, and that's one of the potential problems with the technique because even the slightest amount of contamination can show up in a sample. The way I'd summarize the prosecution's presentation of the data is if the bands don't show, you must let them go.
Wow. This whole thing is full of that. If it don't fit, you must acquit. Well, I got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We have an expert in the audience. Stay with us. It's the O.J. Show.
There's a really big difference between K-Big and Coast. K-Big.
We're discussing how the O.J. Simpson connection has made a lot of people famous. I'd like to state right now that the opinions of the panel of guests are their own opinions and theirs alone. All right, now, I would like you to meet journalist George Curry. He's the editor-in-chief of Emerge, Black America's news magazine. How are you, George?
Thank you.
All right, this is a big question right now. Did the jurors decide on emotion or evidence?
Well, first of all, we see over and over people saying they decided on race, and they forget one important factor. There were 3 people in that jury who were non-African American.
Right.
And so, obviously, since you ever had a unanimous victory of vote, then obviously it wasn't so totally on race. Secondly, race has poisoned everything in this country, whereas the question here should be whether he's guilty or innocent. We brought race into it because we have never dealt honestly with it.
Do you think Johnny Cochran, Johnny Cochran says he did not play the race card. Actually, the prosecution played it by putting Furman on the stand. Do you agree with Johnny?
He might have played it, but Mark Furman dealt it to him.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You had a question off the bat about the DNA evidence, yes, ma'am?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the doctor, what specifically did you find that made you feel the evidence was planted?
Well, there are a number of factors. There was a man who was supposed to have committed 2 incredibly brutal, bloody murders, and you find 1 drop of blood in his car. There are gloves that are so soaked with blood that 8 hours later they're still wet, and we all know how long it takes for blood to dry, and yet there's no blood anyplace else. There are socks that have so much blood on them that it soaks through from one side to another, but there's no blood on the carpet. It just doesn't add up.
Yes, sir.
Back to the doctor about the DNA. How did you come across that the DNA was tainted from where it was gathered?
Well, there should have been blood around the socks. There should have been blood around the gloves. To get the socks and the gloves where they were without any blood around them, the easiest explanation is that somebody put them there.
Wow. George, did we learn anything from this case?
Yeah, I think we did. I think we've learned that we have totally 2 different perspectives of the judicial system. So when Mark Furman uttered the N-word, some whites said, I am aghast, I'm absolutely shocked. While African Americans are saying, you mean you didn't know this? So we have 2 different ways of looking at the system. And also, this has forced a conversation on race, which is something we need to deal with.
All right, now we have an attorney. Do you mind standing up? So this is it Bill Glisson, sir?
Bill Glisson, yes,
Listen, you're an attorney, and you say some good has come from the O.J. Simpson case.
Well, the public has learned a great deal here, Danny. One of the things they learned is that the media can be enormously successful in educating us on the various aspects of the criminal justice system.
For example?
Well, for example, we've learned that the finest vehicle for learning the truth in any issue is through the jury trial, and that ultimate vehicle is the verdict. And that verdict speaks the truth. And in this case, although some people don't think it's spoke the truth, it did speak the truth. And if the truth is spoken, the state doesn't lose. And if they don't lose, what have they won? So the question is, what have they won? The public has won this. We've got a better, clearer crystallization of the function of the defense. We've got a better and clearer explanation as to what the jury stands for. In the many years that I've practiced criminal defense law, I've learned this, that the defense has never been so equal as it has been in the O.J. Simpson case. The defense was intellectually equal. The defense was equal in their staffing, and the defense, with emphasis, was equal financially.
Are you saying that you have to have money to level the playing field? Can a poor man get justice in America?
No, Danny, no. They cannot get the same measure of justice. But in answer to the people who say that he got off because of money, Well, that's not a fair observation to make because the defense was equal here. The real heroes in the United States, Danny, are the everyday men and women who are zealous, who are professional, ethical, and competent prosecutors and defense lawyers who try the very same issues that were tried in the O.J. Simpson case. There was nothing...
Okay, this is...
Mail, because, you know, I have another job. I do a radio station job. And people always send me stuff. They sent me that. Have you got the O.J. Simpson Bronco watch?
We've got the watch right here. It's a beautiful timepiece. A small little white Bronco being chased by 2 squad cars. You got one.
Come here. Yes, ma'am. Mail, because, you know, I have another job. I do a radio station job. And people always send me stuff. They sent me that. Have you got the O.J. Simpson Bronco watch?
We've got the watch right here. It's a beautiful timepiece. A small little white Bronco being chased by 2 squad cars. You got one.
Come here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, everybody's always talking about how Johnny Cochran used the race card. I don't understand why it is how no one has mentioned how Marsha Clark used the domestic violence card. She used that as a part of her case against O.J. Simpson, yet nobody said anything about that. This was a murder case, not a domestic violence case, so I don't understand why it's acceptable for her to use that as part of her case, but Johnny Cochran can't bring up defense, especially since the prosecution brought Mark Furman into that case. I don't understand, you know, why that wasn't ever mentioned.
Well, there are some intrinsic differences between prosecution and the defense. One is that the prosecution, theoretically, is the one with the burden of proof. The defendant is innocent until proven guilty. Did that switch hands this time?
But the problem with that was that Marsha brought Furman up there as a choir boy. How do you feel about testifying? Yeah. And she knew, in fact, that he was a racist, but she wanted to present him as a choir boy, and it backfired on her.
On those tapes, you have a tape of Mark Furman saying, if they lose me, they lose the glove. If they lose me, they lose the case. He turned out to be right, didn't he?
Absolutely right on that.
How do you feel, George, about the marketing of O.J. Simpson?
Well, first of all, you know, O.J.'s going to market O.J. I mean, so it's an American way. I mean, some of the stuff I find repulsive, like the death certificate, but that's America. And you don't care whether you're losing any bodies or not, they're going to make dollars out of it.
Richard, how long can this go on? The merchandising of O.J. Simpson, can it go on for years?
I think there'll be a real quick, short shelf life right now for merchandise. I think 10 years from now, though, with all collectibles, you know, they'll stop making this stuff, and all of a sudden, this stupid little watch will be, you know, worth $500 at a convention somewhere.
Now, I think Judge Randall is a ton of fun. How long do you think you can go on making your living looking like Judge Ito?
As long as Judge Ito's around.
I have a comment. I think the jury did excellent with their verdict, and they also saved a lot of people money, because had he been convicted and tried guilty, it would have been a lot of riots, fires, and a lot of damn stores would have been just
You believe that,
up.
really?
Yes, I do. I do believe if he would have been found guilty, it would have been a lot of
Stop. Okay. George, you know what? Your newspaper, you're the editor-in-chief of an African-American newspaper, right?
Magazine, yeah.
Magazine. What do you think? Would there have been rioting in the streets if O.J. went down?
I don't think so, for one reason. O.J. was never really a part of the African-American community. He got in trouble. Until he got into trouble. In fact, there was a headline in the Pittsburgh Courier said even his Ford Bronco was white. That's been his whole life. So.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I don't need to bum out Mr. Roper, but Mark, myself, and Alan Park are working on a book called O.J.'s Life in the Limo Lane. So you'll be getting one of those real soon.
Can't wait to get it.
I'll add it to the collection.
Don't forget my book, Cato and O.J. Speed Kills.
You got everything, but you got...
Don't forget my book. Look at the kind of people I hang out with.
Book, Danny.
When we come back, we'll hear more about O.J. from our panel. Stay with us. I'll be with you 1 second. We're just about out of time. Before we go, I'd just like to take a second to remember that there are 2 victims, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, who seem to have somehow taken a back seat to O.J. in this case. And I just thought it was important to point that out and keep them in your prayers. I'd like to thank my panelists for coming down, and thank you very much. See you later. Thank you very much.
They always come back. You raise your kids, but they never leave. Adult kids who won't leave home. Tomorrow afternoon at 1 on Danny. Next, meet a man who's proud that his son has been with hundreds of women on The Jenny Jones Show.